Okay, welcome back to Final Fight, part 2 of 3, I'm assuming. We are in the industrial zone, which, from what I can understand, was removed from the SNES version. I don't quite understand why. Seems like this and 2-player was cut out of the SNES version, but it's apparently in the files, I think. I was watching a video on, like, the differences between the versions, and I think they said that if you debug the game, you can actually still find this level in here, but there's no, like, collision or anything like that, so it's not like a thing of, oh, they didn't have enough space on the cartridge, because it's in there. They just didn't use it. It's also one of those things that I feel like is really weird to cut out, because this game is kind of like, I would say, kind of an homage to this type of movie from like the 80s, where it's just a dumb action movie. The plot is completely irrelevant. It usually has to do with like some woman is kidnapped or something, you know, something like that is usually how these movies go. And I feel like the ending of most action movies in the 80s took place in some sort of a industrial warehouse or like a smeltering plant or something like that. So the fact that this was removed from the SNES version, I think, is very strange. Yeah, it's just one of those classic movie things that you don't really... doesn't matter. It's a cool location for an end of a movie. You know, like Terminator 2 is probably the top example of that. And then you got Sylvester Stallone trying to do the exact same thing with Cobra. Maybe Cobra came out first. I don't know. But yeah, this is where the game starts to get a little ridiculous. It's where they start really throwing a bunch of enemies at you all at once. And it's where the double lariat is going to become very, very important to use. And as I said in part 1, it takes away your health every time you do it, but you have infinite lives. What does it matter? You know, it's an arcade port, which means you can't insert coins into this game. So the only thing that they can do, well, I guess I think there's an option to turn off the infinite lives if you want like a real version of this. But I legitimately think that would be unplayable. Could not be done. Something I've never quite understood is the timer. Because we're in the level, it's happening right now, and look, 50 has not gone down. 49, it took like 20 seconds maybe for the 50 to turn into a 49. I don't quite understand that. I could see that maybe being an emulator issue, but I don't know. I never played this on an actual arcade hardware, so I really couldn't tell you why the timer is so lax like that. Look at this. Look at all these purple and pink people just beating up on Mike Hagar. Mike Hagar also kind of looks like Joseph Stalin, so that's pretty cool. You can kind of pretend you're playing... this is Joseph Stalin's Wild Ride. And yeah, that's another reason why I play as Hagar, is because, like, I haven't talked about the plot yet, but the Mad Gear Gang has kidnapped his daughter, Jessica. And I feel like, why would you play as Cody or Guy? He has the best reason to go rescue them, and it's just... it makes it a cool game about a dad who just tries to save his daughter. And that's cool. So this is Rolento. He's another one of those characters that if you've played Street Fighter, you'd probably recognize him. He came from this and would eventually go on to be in a couple of Street Fighter games. He's pretty annoying in this. He's one of those that, I think because Hagar is so slow, he's more annoying. But yeah, trying to just pin him down and get a hit off on him becomes very annoying, like halfway through the fight. He's not as annoying as Eddie E, but then again, literally no one is. You just kind of have to get lucky, but I love this. I love that he just blows himself up. So I think that means we are now officially halfway done with the game. So, okay, this is just like the Eddie E fight. This is a prime example of how the depth perception really screws with me in this game. Like this, I cannot figure out what plane I'm supposed to be on, or what plane they're supposed to be on, and this was just... The game turned me around for some reason, and I started getting really frustrated. I thought I wasn't gonna win this, but, got it with time to spare, baby. And by time to spare, I mean 1 second. I love how it says perfect. That run was not perfect, thank you very much. I literally turned around and was punching nothing for like 3 seconds there. That was not perfect. This is another thing where I feel like this is such a like 80s action movie thing. You just go into a pier attacking like 80s thugs. You know, they all look like those guys in the beginning of the Terminator that Arnold steals the clothes from. So I think it was Bill Paxton and a couple other fairly well-known actors. I need your boots, your clothes, your keys, your boots, your motorcycle, your keys, your boots, your shoes, your coat, your socks, your boots, your keys, your motorcycle. This is also a level where they really start throwing the knife guys at you, which makes me want to kill myself, because as I said in the first video, if you get more than one of those guys on screen at a time, you're gonna have a bad day. I love this, just the amount of enemies on screen and how quickly you can take them out with one of these weapons. That dog is really happy about something. He looks like he's laughing more than he looks like he's barking. Yeah, this is ridiculous when you can just corner these big fat guys like this. Wong Hu. Hong Hu? I can't read what that says, it's so small. They look like Bluto from Popeye. At least the one with the bald head looks like Bluto from Popeye. And then there's like an Asian version. Which I guess I appreciate, that there's two like different versions of each enemy, kind of. And they look distinct from each other. And going back to the thing that I was talking about in the last video with Poison. Obviously there's Poison and there's Roxy. Only Poison has had the discussion about her, which I don't quite understand. For all intents and purposes, I guess Roxy is just a female, but Poison is a post-op transgender woman. So I don't quite understand why there's no discussion about Roxy's gender. Because she was also changed in the SNES version. So I don't know why there hasn't been any discussion on that. Welcome to my TED Talk. That'd be an incredible topic to do a TED Talk on. Absolutely nobody in the audience would have any idea what I'm talking about. And that's why I would do it. And speaking of Roxy and Poison, here they are. But speaking of Roxy and Poison, they're both obviously named after musical acts. Most of the enemies in this game are. I guess the people who made this were really into like 80s metal and 80s like this type of music, and you know what, it fits. Some of them are references to just band names, some of them are like people in the bands. Like I think Roxy and Poison were replaced by enemies named like Sid and I don't know, Sid and someone. Obviously like Sid Vicious and stuff like that, but it's fine. That's a good naming convention. If I were naming things, my favorite thing to do is to have like an old-timey first name and then like an onomatopoeia as the last name, or like an object. So it would be like Absalom Plop, or like Terrence Cashew. You know, just weird names like that. That's how I would make these games if I was in charge. And to be frank, I don't know how I haven't been put in charge of a game yet. It would be a game where you play as Joseph Stalin fighting people named Absalom that have onomatopoeia last names. It's fine. Also, when I think sexy, I think public restrooms on piers. Definitely, that's what... When I think of the word sexy, that's what I think of. So I'm glad that someone else wrote that on a public bathroom stall. This one guy, this enemy that I'm fighting right now, he looks like an NES sprite. Also, his name's Slash, get it? But, it's because his hair and his jacket are, like, the same color. So he looks like an NES sprite where, you know, everything was just the shade, like, the same exact color. So he looks really strange and out of place, I think. I've never quite liked that enemy. He looks like an early Castlevania character, where just everything on him, including his skin, looks like the same shade of red. Everyone else looks fine. It's seriously just him. I think one of the other things they changed in the SNES version is that you can't pick up beer on the ground. Like, you know, you pick up giant chickens and you pick up gum and stuff like that to heal yourself with. But you can also pick up beer, which I guess they removed for the SNES version because children can't possibly know what beer is. Okay, so these enemies are pretty fun to fight if you can get lucky, because you see they're throwing Molotov cocktails. If you get in front of them, and if you punch the Molotovs, it'll break it, and you won't get attacked by it, which I think is a really cool... Like, if you can make it look cool, it's a really great attack. I think basically all projectiles in this game, at least from what I can tell, all projectiles can be, like, blocked, specifically with the double lariat. Like Eddie E, I've done it before, I'm pretty sure, where I've just, like, blocked his bullets by doing that. But then again, you also don't make any progress. Like, you can't move forward, so what's the point? This screen right here might be the worst screen in the game, because they throw all these knife guys at you, and it's absurd. As I was saying before, if you get more than one of these at a time, your day is ruined. Your disappointment is immeasurable, and your day is ruined. Thankfully, you know, they do pick up, or they do drop those knives that you can use against them. But I feel like it's too slow to, you know, bend down, pick up the knife, and then throw it. In the meantime, you're probably going to get stabbed about a dozen times. But in the 80s, this probably was, you know, a pretty common sight. Just walking along in a park and getting stabbed by guys named Elgato and Hollywood. It's so frustrating. You have to do the double lariat or else you die. That one guy tried to, like, slide kick me and I just suplexed him. God, I love this game. I don't quite know what's going on with the background. It looks like a void. Hey Hagar, what did you have for dinner? Oh, I knocked over some tires in a park and a chicken came out. I ate that. Yeah, that's the thing you don't see after these games, is the character getting home and then they get food poisoning. You know, I've played this game more times than I can count. I don't know what the difference is between... Sometimes you'll do the jump attack and he'll do the kick, where other times he'll, like, lunge at you. You've seen it a couple times there. I don't know, like, I'm not pressing anything different. I don't... Maybe it's when there's an enemy on the ground? That's the only thing I can think of. Also, I like how the Metro City there's just the Statue of Liberty, why not? I would love if the Statue of Liberty looked like Mike Hagar. That would be great. If they ever do a new Final Fight game, they absolutely need to do that. Just replace that statue, retcon it so that it's always looked like Mike Hagar. I was digging into some Street Fighter lore, because again, I'm not very well versed in it. But the double lariat, obviously, is something that later on will be kind of associated with Zangief. And they retcon that away by saying, like, oh yeah, actually he saw Hagar do it once, and so he just incorporated that into his own moveset. Bam! Best way to start a boss battle ever. He comes charging in, suplex that MFer. So this is Abigail, another character. I think this is another character that eventually... Yeah, no, this is definitely another Street Fighter character. But, you know, named after another band, obviously. I think it's an album, though. Or a song. I don't know. I know less about 80s music than I do about Street Fighter. Abigail's probably the easiest boss in the game, at least since Damned, who was the first boss. He gets really angry, just punch him while he's charging at you. It's very easy. Sometimes it could be annoying if there's other enemies around, and maybe they attack you right before you can attack him, and then you'll get hurt like double. That's no fun. But Abigail's fine. He's a fine boss. Obviously, he kind of looks like Gene Simmons, too. Also, that guy's name is Bill Bull. It's so great. Every time I read it now, I think of Bill Burr. So, that's pretty good. So, there you go. Join me for the next video when we beat the game.